The moment has come. 30 fusion bomb ships plunged into the heart of the swarm, detonating in a cataclysm that reduced the enemy fleet to ash. In the blink of an eye, 80% of the foe was wiped out. This battle was as taut as a drawn bow. Earth didn't come to retreat, it came to triumph. This is New Haven, where Deathworlders rise from the ashes. Are you ready to witness this universe-shaking showdown? Don't forget to smash like and subscribe to Cosmic Hypothesis so you won't miss our next epic space battle, the desperate situation of New Haven. Captain Reed stared intently at the main screen, the hollows beneath his eyes a testament to 12 weeks without sleep. The modest control room of New Haven's defense center had become his second home, every blaring alarm feeling like a death knell. The flickering lights of the orbital sensors spelled out the same dreadful truth. The swarm was closing in, and in just 2 weeks, New Haven would be erased from the map of the Orion Arm. 3 years ago, New Haven had been hailed as the jewel of the Orion Arm. 40,000 lives representing 12 species from across the Alliance had once thrived in harmony. Vast forests stretched over rolling hills. Oceans mirrored twin moons that danced across the sky. And the city fit so seamlessly into its world, it seemed born of the planet's own breath. Yet now, over 0 souls faced annihilation, the result of a cold decree. The Galactic Alliance had placed New Haven on the sacrifice list, deeming it too remote to merit military aid. Day 32 of emergency broadcasts had passed with no reply. Officer Jones, her face gaunt from endless shifts, looked up from her console. "Sir, is anyone out there?" Her voice echoed through the silence, forcing Reed to admit how isolated they truly were. Night after night, he wondered how many ears and eyes had received their distress calend, whether any cared enough to respond. "They're hearing us," he replied, forcing calm into his voice. "But whether they'll act, that's another matter." In that instant, the reality of New Haven came into sharp relief. Long convoys of evacuation, transports crawling through the streets, citizens clutching what little they could carry. Hollow-eyed as they gazed upward, the same sky that just days ago held a hopeful sunrise, now poised to witness their final dawn. That image pounded in Reed's mind. Fellow soldiers, elders, children, engineers, doctors, naval crews, all depending on him and his security team. The weight of deciding who would stay and who would go pressed on him like 1,000 tons, crushing the heart of a soldier bred only to protect. Officer Parker entered the room, his uniform rumpled from continuous duty. "Team C is ready, sir," he reported. 800 more will depart today. Reed nodded, voice dry and clipped. "Prioritize children and essential personnel, maintain species balance." Every time he issued that order, he hated himself a little more. Humanity, the so-called Deathworlders, who had endured and fought since their origins, now forced to sacrifice most of their own to save a fragment. As despair threatened to consume him, the sensors suddenly chimed on a different frequency. "Sir, there's an unidentified contact on long-range scanners," Jones announced, fingers flying over her console. "It's not the swarm, it's a fleet." The main screen fluttered, then resolved into hundreds of orderly, angular points of light, not organic creatures, but sleek warships of human design. "A fleet from Earth," Parker whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "They've answered our call." For the past 60 years, Earth had been confined to defending its own solar system, regarded by the Alliance as weak and untrustworthy. Yet, here they were, hundreds of UDF ships bearing the blue-green emblem emerging at New Haven's system edge, bringing hope and a resolve that would echo across the galaxy. In that historic moment, Reed felt the first warm spark of hope in weeks. And yet a new question rose in his mind. Why had Earth come for them? Before he could ponder further, he ordered, "Establish comms. Transmit all swarm data immediately." As those human ships began deploying troops to the surface, the thunder of UDF boots on New Haven's landing pads sounded like a victory drum, heralding the desperate battle and the newfound bond about to unfold. The unexpected arrival of the Earth fleet. As the strange signal began to flicker on the long-range scanner, Officer Jones startled and looked up. Dozens of successive sweeps strained every analytical algorithm, yet the shape on the display remained unchanged. A massive warship, its silhouette defined by sharp angles and layered armor, drifting silently at the edge of space. It was unmistakably not an Alliance design. There were no smooth aerodynamic curves, no glossy white hull. Instead, it was a stark, shadowed outline of pure military intent. "Sir, a ship is closing in," Jones whispered, her voice tinged with equal parts alarm and exhilaration. Captain Reed rose from his seat and strode over to the auxiliary console, eyes narrowed as he initiated manual sensor verification. Was this a phantom glitch, or the first glimmer of hope after months of unrelenting despair? Infrared scans locked onto dozens of pinpoint contacts, which then resolved into an entire fleet advancing in precise formation. Not one or two capital ships, but over 300 vessels, enough to stun any radar operator. Each ship materialized from faster-than-light travel with a burst of cobalt blue engine glow, then shifted to a muted azure halo as they formed a protective screen around New Haven. "That's the Earth Fleet," Lieutenant Parker stammered, voice catching in disbelief. The name resonated in everyone's ears. United Defense Force, long relegated by the Galactic Alliance to a purely defensive role within the Sol system. And yet here they were, traversing more than 60 light-years to reach this remote colony. Reed's breath caught as he watched ship after ship emerge from hyperspace, their phalanx of hulls perfect and unyielding against the starfield. A stunned silence gripped the control room, broken only when warning klaxons blared anew. Jones's fingers danced across her console, updating real-time coordinates, tactical overlays, and movement logs. On the main screen, the legend UDF Resolute appeared in bold metallic lettering, a declaration of Earth's commitment. Reed tilted his head back, exhaling a long-held breath. For the first time in weeks, he felt his spine stiffen with renewed resolve, even amid the ruins of shattered hope. Yet he remained cautious. The Alliance never permitted them to venture this far, he muttered. Parker's gaze flicked between the display and the captain, torn between ingrained loyalty and the fragile spark of newfound faith. 30 agonizing seconds passed before the comm system automatically switched to a priority channel. A clear, commanding female voice filled the room. "New Haven Colony. This is Fleet Admiral Walker of the UDF Resolute. We have received your distress signal. Prepare to receive tactical support and limited evacuation. Please transmit all available data on the swarm's numbers, deployment patterns, and estimated trajectories." Admiral Walker's tone was devoid of flair or fanfare, calm, measured, as though she were overseeing a standard training exercise. Yet the authority in her words resonated like drumfire in Reed's chest, freezing him in place as his heart thundered in his ears. "Copy that," Reed replied, his voice steady at last. "This is Captain Reed, Chief of Security, New Haven Colony. We are deeply grateful for your intervention. For clarity's sake, what is Earth's primary objective here?" "We are here to fight alongside you, Captain Reed," came the immediate response. "Earth protects its own. Transmit your full intelligence on the swarm without delay." Reed watched as hundreds of UDF ships executed coordinated maneuvers, their formations shifting flawlessly to enclose the planet within a protective ring. Parker keyed the speaker to broadcast Admiral Walker's pledge throughout the facility. In that moment, amid the low hum of starship engines and the soft glow of tactical displays, Reed felt weight lift from his shoulders. They were no longer alone. When Officer Jones handed him the crystal data module containing every decrypted scan and encrypted report on the swarm, Reed bowed his head slightly, understanding the gravity of what he was doing. He was entrusting the Alliance's most sensitive intelligence to these Earth forces in exchange for the lives of 40,000 souls. Silence reclaimed the control room, punctuated only by the soft, steady pulse of the UDF Resolute's engine glow casting electric blue light across Reed's determined face. He allowed himself a small, resolute smile. "They haven't come to evacuate us. They've come to fight." Through the reinforced viewport, the Earth fleet shimmered against the star-dusted void, like a phalanx of new sentinels emerging from the cosmic night, bearing the flame of hope, the steadfast will to resist, and a promise that New Haven would stand firm. No longer would the colony face extinction alone. A new era of resistance and survival had begun. The Reed Walker Conference. The betrayal decision. Captain Reed climbed the reinforced stairs of the UDF Resolute, a chill running down his spine with each metallic clang underfoot, a stark reminder of the weighty responsibility that awaited him. The narrow corridor lacked any warm, thick steel panels, reflected the pale yellow LED lights, creating an austere, fortress-like atmosphere drifting through the void. He bowed his head before the command briefing door, pushing aside every doubt. If New Haven was to be saved, he would have to enter this cold, armored world. When the sliding doors parted, Reed found Fleet Admiral Walker standing beside a three-dimensional holographic table. Her tall, slender frame was shrouded in a dark, blue-black Kevlar-woven coat. Around her flickered lights tracing New Haven's orbit, and red dots advancing toward the colony marked the swarm's relentless approach. Without invitation, Walker motioned Reed into a high-backed leather chair. Her gaze was unwavering. Each measured glance bore into the heart of his resolve. "Captain Reed," Walker began, her calm voice carrying undeniable authority. "Thank you for accepting this meeting. There is no time to waste." The firmness in her tone echoed Earth's iron resolve. Reed cleared his throat, swallowing his nervousness. "Fleet Admiral Walker, New Haven is profoundly grateful for Earth's intervention. However, I must understand your true objective in our system." He forced his expression to remain neutral, though his thoughts raced. Walker's brow furrowed as she placed one hand upon the console. "We did not come merely to evacuate. We came to fight to protect New Haven from annihilation. Every life there, even those not of human lineage, falls under the UDF's protection." Each word landed like a heavy ordnance, driving into Reed's conscience. A hush fell, broken only by the soft hum of microthrusters. Reed pressed on. "But this violates the 2060 Sol Treaty, which restricts Earth's military operations to within our solar system. Why has Earth chosen to disregard that accord?" Walker nodded slowly, sorrow in her eyes. "That treaty stands only so long as no world faces collective extinction. When the Alliance designated New Haven a sacrificial outpost, we had no choice. They argued about jurisdiction while your colony teetered on the brink. We could not stand by." Bitter truth coated Reed's throat as he asked the pivotal question: "How did Earth receive our distress signal from 60 light-years away?" Walker tapped her console, and the hologram shifted to display the UDF Einstein, a scientific vessel testing faster-than-light communications. 3 weeks ago, Einstein intercepted your beacon and forwarded it to Ocean Command. That afforded us time to mobilize this fleet. Meanwhile, the Alliance debated for 6 weeks without action. A proud smile crossed her face. "We debate less, we act more." Turning to strategy, Walker continued. "We require your full intelligence on the swarm orbital scans, attack vectors, biological anisivary datum you have gathered." Reed faltered, voice hoarse. "Sharing this data breaches Colonial Security Protocol 35.6. Alliance secrets are forbidden." Walker's eyes flashed with restrained impatience. "True, but when a colony faces extinction, collective defense protocols override any treaty. New Haven cannot wait for the Alliance's endless deliberations. I give you the choice. Cling to secrecy and perish, or share your findings and survive." Reed's heart wrenched. He envisioned the panic-stricken faces on New Haven's launch pads, the cries of children in the dark. He weighed every possible casualty if help did not arrive in time. After a long moment, he withdrew a small data crystal from his coat pocket, its bluish glow pulsing between his fingers. "This contains all the intelligence we have compiled," he said quietly. In that instant, he formally broke the Alliance's trust to safeguard those 40 lives. Walker accepted the crystal. Its reader embedded it into her system. The hologram immediately expanded, revealing every locked secure scan and covert report on the swarm. She met Reed's eyes and nodded with solemn respect. "Thank you, Captain. This is where we begin." A stunned Reed whispered, "I've just committed treason." Walker offered a wry philosophical smile. "Only if we fail. If we succeed, history will call you a hero." In that momentous, first true smile in weeks, Reed felt his spirit fortified. Their conference shifted seamlessly into the joint tactical plan. Walker outlined 3 phases. Deploy cloaked antimatter mines along the system's perimeter, stage orbital rail, gun ambushes, and deliver decisive fusion. Bomb strike from a retrofitted cargo vessel. Reed listened intently, recording every detail as she explained how each step leveraged Earth's technological edge and humanity's survival instinct. As Reed departed the briefing room, he felt a weight lift from his shoulders, even as new pressures settled in his chest. The coming battle would decide not only New Haven's fate, but also the standing of humanity, the Deathworlders, in a galaxy that had long doubted them. He strode toward the hangar, resolute and reinvigorated, determined that this time New Haven would not stand alone. Captain Reed emerged from the control room into the harsh glow of industrial floodlights, reflecting off cold steel structures. He immediately reviewed the tactical map. The band of land encircling the primary city was marked in crimson, that designated emplacement for plasma batteries, while the rolling hills beyond were reserved for the mass driver installations. The coming engagement would hinge on the flawless deployment of these two weapon systems, and time was more critical than ever. The Earth Engineering Detachment had been divided into 4 task teams alongside the colony's security forces. Team 1 was charged with installing 4 long-range plasma cannons. Each battery weighed nearly 200 tons and consisted of plasma conduits and magnetic stabilization arrays capable of projecting high-energy ion beams. Positioning each component required heavy lift cranes and specialized transport carriers. Assembly crews labored around the clock in protective suits, rotating through shifts without pause despite mounting fatigue. At the same time, Team 2 was laying the foundations for the mass driver and underground, superconducting electromagnetic accelerator. 4 strategic sites were excavated and reinforced with giant superconducting coils and magnetic field amplifiers. When activated, the mass driver could hurl 1-ton steel slugs at nearly 1/10 the speed of light, sufficient to pierce the swarm's organic armor. Engineers welded magnetic containment shields, mounted thermal control panels, and meticulously tuned the firing frequency to prevent beam drift. Team 3 took responsibility for the bioradar network. They erected a series of organic sensor towers and vibration collectors around the city's outskirts. These units could distinguish the swarm's characteristic heat signatures and low-frequency tremors, transmitting real-time data to Central Command within seconds. Technicians were organized into installer, calibrator, and data supervisor roles to ensure continuous system integrity. Their work would guarantee that the plasma cannons and mass drivers opened fire the moment the swarm entered their effective engagement envelopes. Within the city itself, Team 4 conducted rapid response training for civilian volunteers. Squads of 20 comprising farmers, mechanics, engineers, and medical staff were issued automatic rifles and lightweight sniper platforms. Under UDF instructors, they underwent crash courses in high-speed reload drills, precision marksmanship, and close-quarters combat using improvised metal cudgels for when ammunition ran dry. This mobilization transformed ordinary residents into a capable militia, ready to reinforce the defensive perimeter. The Death Worlder spirit was stoked by Captain Reed's special address and motivational briefings from Captain Walker. Over the public address system, she proclaimed, "Let your fear fuel your determination. On Earth, every sunrise is a test of survival, forging warriors who never yield." Her words reverberated across the training grounds, sparking thunderous applause and uniting soldiers and civilians in shared resolve. Concurrently, the colony's medical corps stood up mobile field hospitals adjacent to the weapon emplacements. Ambulance convoys were pre-routed along protected corridors, each triage station stocked with antiseptics, surgical instruments, and automated blood infusion robots. Doctors and nurses completed battlefield first aid certifications to treat both swarm-inflicted wounds and allied casualties, ensuring no one fell through the cracks of the defense network. Urgency animated every hour of New Haven's preparation. By day, task teams assembled weapons and sensors. By night, they maintained watch, recalibrated systems, and logged performance metrics. The plasma batteries were test-fired at mock swarm vessels, while trial slugs were launched from the mass driver into unoccupied zones to validate targeting accuracy. Civilians drilled formation movements, rapid terrain traversal, and equipment repair protocols under simulated failures. As the hour of engagement drew near, Captain Reed convened a final readiness inspection. He moved systematically from one plasma battery to the next, nodding in approval at each secured mount and calibrated targeting matrix. Seeing UDF troops and volunteer defense units clasp rifles and share determined looks, he allowed himself a moment of quiet pride. "We have prepared to the fullest. Now it is time to stand and fight." When darkness fell, New Haven was no longer a distant colonial outpost, but a forged bastion of survival, weaponized and unified, ready to face the swarm's onslaught with steely resolve. Cloaked antimatter mine ambush. Phase 1 of New Haven's defense plan commences as Earth fleet vessels covertly deploy an array of cloaked antimatter mines along the system's primary approach corridors. According to the operational blueprint, 200 mines are emplaced at 4 critical choke points. Each mine is enveloped in an advanced stealth shell and fitted with a cryptographic plasma shield that renders it invisible to the swarm's sensor suites. Under the cover of darkness, Captain Marcus's engineering detachment navigates the barren way stations between minor asteroids. They employ unmanned reconnaissance drones to precisely position each mine within pre-surveyed orbital waypoints. After mine placement, engineers anchored decoy beacons programmed to emit false biosignature frequencies, luring the swarm into the kill zone. Technicians then calibrate the mine's stealth modulation to the optimal activation bandwidth, ensuring each device remains inert until a living target crosses the threshold. From the Resolute's command observation port, Captain Reed monitors every broadcast, his chest tightening as he contemplates New Haven's fate should even one device fail. He steels himself. Success is the only option. There is no fallback. The emplacement operation unfolds over 48 continuous hours of intense coordination. Every minute is orchestrated through encrypted voice and data channels, linking the deploying vessels, drone operators, and staging stations. Once the final mine is in place, teams perform a last-ditch systems check. They verify the plasma field integrity, confirm that thermal emissions remain below detection thresholds, and conduct electromagnetic silence drills to eliminate any stray electronic signature. In that tense silence, Reed watches telemetry streams for anomalies. Every minor fluctuation in shield frequency or power draw could spell disaster. He remains motionless, the weight of thousands of lives concentrated in each faint blip on the console. On the eve of the swarm's arrival, Admiral Walker convenes a final pre-launch briefing in the Resolute's tactical suite. The holographic map flickers with hundreds of red markers, each denoting a mine's precise coordinates. She cross-references Reed's own scan logs to confirm absolute alignment. When they break into the exclusion zones, Walker intones, voice echoing against the metal bulkheads, "Our mines will deactivate their stealth fields simultaneously and detonate. This will deliver the most devastating initial strike the swarm has ever encountered." Reed nods grimly, heart pounding at the thought of hundreds of antimatter charges igniting in unison. At the moment Phase 1 is triggered, the battle network goes eerily silent as if the void itself were holding its breath. The swarm advances in a multi-layered formation, scouting frigates at the vanguard, followed by heavier command vessels. Once the first drone cluster breaches the peripheral minefield, bioradar sensors relay a target and range signal. Instantly, the mine's cloaking fields collapse and their antimatter cores implode. The chain reaction rips through the darkness, unleashing blinding white detonations that shred the leading swarm elements into ash and plasma. Aboard the Resolute's bridge, Admiral Walker conceals her elation beneath a stoic mask. Initial loss: 30% of their first wave, reports Lieutenant Green, voice steady over the tactical net. Within predicted parameters, Walker allows herself a faint smile in affirmation that the opening salvo has succeeded. Yet the swarm's relentless advance, even amid the wreckage, underscores that the true struggle has only just begun. A renewed sense of purpose spreads throughout the colony. Ground crews and gunnery teams alike draw confidence from the victory, however costly. As Phase 1 draws to a close, the void returns to a grim stillness, broken only by debris drifting between stars. Fragile flares of wrecked hull fragments and shattered swarm biocarapaces hang like ghostly sentinels in the gloaming. Data from the minefield's aftermath streams back to Central Command. Earth engineers compile comprehensive post-strike analyses, mapping damage radii, pinpointing structural weaknesses in the swarm vessels, and refining threat profiles. Walker and Reed review the findings together, adjusting plasma battery targeting arcs and mass driver firing algorithms in preparation for Phase 2. The message is clear. These cloaked antimatter mines were not merely an opening gambit, but a decisive lesson in the power of surgical surprise. In his debrief, Admiral Walker emphasizes the overarching principle: our faith in swift, unexpected counterstrikes is our greatest bulwark. Phase 1 has proven that a well-executed ambush can disorient and degrade even the most formidable foe. As New Haven's defenders absorb this lesson, they steel themselves for the next phase of resistance. The colony's survival hinges on maintaining momentum and leveraging every tactical advantage, starting with the shock and awe delivered by their cloaked antimatter ambush. Railgun and mass driver assault. Phase 2 of New Haven's defense plan begins immediately after the antimatter mine blasts fade. The swarm refuses to retreat. They regroup and target the Earth fleet. On the UDF Resolute's deck, 8 railguns weighing tens of tons each are mounted along both hull flanks, each equipped with thrust stabilization and automated optical guidance. When the range indicator turns green, the crew peers through precision scopes as tungsten alloy projectiles accelerate to nearly 20,000 kilometers per s, able to slice through both organic armor and composite plating of the swarm like a hot knife through butter. Upon orbital sensor confirmation that the swarm has entered the engagement envelope, the Resolute's 4 primary railguns fire in unison. The muffled pop-pop echoes through the vacuum as cobalt blue beams pierce the darkness, shredding mid-sized swarm vessels and reducing them to incandescent debris. Automated trajectory correction ensures each shot hits its mark, obliterating nearly 20 targets in mere seconds. Simultaneously, a hidden mass driver emplacement behind New Haven's moon comes online with surgical precision. Superconducting accelerator coils launch 500-kilogram steel slugs at 1/10 the speed of light. The first projectile streaks like an artificial meteor, piercing the atmosphere and smashing into the flank of a pursuing swarm frigate. The resulting detonation yields critical structural and biosignature data on the enemy. Command aboard the Resolute buzzes with alarms and real-time telemetry. Captain Reed stands beside the three-dimensional tactical map, eyes widening as the swarm's formation fractures into isolated clusters. Inhaling deeply, he senses the metallic tang of digital displays and vows. We're cutting their spine. Moments later, the second and third railguns fire successive volleys, each salvo marching through 3 barrels to annihilate nearly 30 light cruisers and escort ships. Next, the orbital mass driver unleashes a barrage into the swarm's rear ranks. A second slug creates a pressure wave so immense it knocks several cruisers off course, their hulls breaking apart into drifting wreckage. Meanwhile, secondary railgun batteries on the UDF Thunderchild and Dauntless lock onto fleeing elements, sending hypervelocity rounds slicing through the disordered column and preventing any enemy regrouping. The results of Phase 2 are unmistakable. The swarm's battle line collapses, leaving only a scattering of vessels capable of further assault. From a ground station, Lieutenant Davis transmits, "Ground assault force reduced by over 70%. Enemy mass advantage gone." Her voice trembles with emotion as New Haven's militias erupt in cheers over the colony's loudspeakers, reinvigorating UDF troops and civilian defenders alike. This early victory decisively shifts the battle in Earth's favor. Reed raises his water glass on the deck, exchanging grateful glances with Jones and Parker. "We've proven humanity can fight not only up close but also annihilate our foe from afar," he murmurs, pride shining in his voice for their technological prowess and indomitable spirit. As the tactical display flickers to Phase 3 alerts, fusion bomb ready, the assembled crews steel themselves for the next crucible. Though the fusion bomb will deliver the final blow, the success of Phase 2 has laid an unshakable foundation. The Earth fleet remains intact while only scattered red dots mark the enemy's position. They have demonstrated that raw kinetic power can shatter even the swarm's sophisticated biohull. The preparations for Phase 3 will be far more severe, but with unwavering resolve, New Haven edges ever closer to victory. Fusion bombs, the turning point of battle. Phase 3 begins when Admiral Walker's voice echoes over the Resolute speakers. Execute the final phase. 30 unmanned cargo vessels retrofitted as mobile fusion bombs await the order. Each is nearly 200 meters long, clad in lightweight armor and fitted with advanced thrusters for sudden acceleration. Inside, high-yield experimental thermonuclear charges far more powerful than any previous anti-swarm ordnance sit in the central hold, ready to unleash energy multiple times that of earlier strikes. The fusion bomb vessels form a sweeping arc along the outer asteroid belt, concealed behind tumbling rock and cosmic dust plumes. UDF Command issues a strictly silent activation order. No transmissions. Absolute radio silence. Technicians run final safety checks on each ship's detonation circuitry, verify autonomous guidance frequencies, then send the ignition signal. All unfolds in an eerie void, so still that the pounding of armored hearts seems audible. As the battered swarm, still reeling from Phase 2, diverts to pursue decoy civilian freighters, it blunders into the trap. Instantly, the fusion bomb vessels engage their autopilots. They veer sharply, streaking like deadly arrows into the enemy flank. Optical tracking and sensor arrays capture the moment the fusion ships converge on the heart of the swarm armada. On the Resolute's bridge, the tactical displays flicker as Reed and Walker monitor every second. 5 seconds to detonation, Lieutenant Green intones. In that pregnant silence, only the officers' heartbeats resonate. Then the countdown begins. 3, 2, 1. All 30 fusion vessels detonate simultaneously in a cataclysmic crescendo. Blinding white light floods through the blast-shielded viewports, like a second sun rising amid darkness. Even space itself quivers under the shockwave's force. Hundreds of swarm ships vaporize in an instant. No hull fragments remain. No organic remains, only a silent void studded with drifting debris. Sensor feeds update in real time. Over 80% of the swarm's combat strength has been obliterated by this single strike. The surviving vessels, now isolated from their hive mind network, fall into total disarray. Communication channels crackle and then die akin to a body losing its pulse. Seizing the moment, Earth fleet ships surge forward. Railguns blaze, cutting down the few stragglers that attempt to flee, allowing no chance for reorganization. On the planet below, plasma batteries and mass drivers fire in tandem, annihilating any fragments falling toward the atmosphere. Amid the aftermath, Lieutenant Davis gazes skyward at streaks of residual fusion glow that still fracture the night. She exhales in relief, as only scattered speck marks of the last swarm vessels drift away. Training in close-quarters combat and small arms tactics suddenly seems secondary. The fusion strike has rewritten the rules of engagement. Captain Reed stands contemplative before the command display and quietly breathes, "We did it." Admiral Walker lays a firm hand on his shoulder, her voice both warm and resolute. This is the first time the swarm has faced the full might of Deathworlders. They couldn't comprehend what hit them. The bridge falls into awed silence as everyone absorbs the fusion strike's decisive outcome. Phase 3 has exceeded all expectations and become the battle's turning point. The swarm lies broken in both body and mind. This crushing defeat not only secures New Haven's liberation, but also broadcasts a powerful truth. Humanity and its off-world allies will never surrender, no matter how formidable the foe. This triumph stands as proof of the unbreakable union and indomitable determination that define the Deathworlder spirit. Ground battle: Earth infantry versus the swarm. On the third day of the siege, dawn's pale light still fought to burn off the thick smoke hanging over New Haven's skyline. Almost immediately after Phase 3's fusion strike concluded, the ground command net crackled to life. They're deploying swarm landing ships inbound. Forward-looking optical and infrared sensors confirmed dozens of bio-landing vessels, gleaming armored carapaces resembling colossal mummies plunging into the suburbs. Touchdown points roughly 3 kilometers from the city center. Lieutenant Tess Davis stood atop Defense Point A-12. Her UDF helmet's plasma accent lights long since dimmed. She raised her hand in sharp signal. Emplacements to ready. Swarm touchdown in 60 seconds. The countdown klaxon startled both soldiers and civilian militias, but none faltered. They had trained for this exact moment. When the timer hit 0, 4 remote plasma turrets roared to life, unleashing searing cerulean beams that incinerated the first wave of armored troopers. Their charred remains suspended in mid-air. As the turrets powered down, Davis lowered her voice. "Medics, stand by. Hold the line." Behind a fortified barrier, human infantry advanced with UDF automatic rifles, each volley tearing through the swarm's carapaces. Tungsten cord rounds sprayed molten fragments from shattered armor, but the swarm pressed on unrelentingly. They fanned out to flank the position, their multi-jointed limbs enabling strike maneuvers from unexpected angles. Colonel Moreno, commanding the UDF ground forces, barked orders over the tactical radio. Group A, formate ranks and focus fire on the left flank cluster. Group B, prepare for close quarters support. New Haven civilian fighters, former engineers, farmers, and mechanics fell into disciplined formations. Snipers picked off high-value targets, their shots piercing organic skull-like helmets, while specialized close combat troops wielded steel clubs and heavy combat blades to cleave through the disordered ranks. The air echoed with the clash of steel and the pop of slug round. Davis sprinted along the concrete barricade, eyes scanning the oncoming tide. She keyed her comms mic. "X, Delta, shift to east flank and deploy the steel mesh traps." Below the surface, high-tension cable nets sprung up, snaring a cluster of swarm attackers. 400 kilovolt discharges tore through their biostructures, electrocuting them in a burst of sparks and screeches that rattled Davis's earpiece and silenced the threat instantly. Amid the hail of rifle fire and electrified nets, a larger, swarm behemoth, towering bristling mound of armored plates and spiny limbs bore down on Davis's position. She shouted, "XM-3, intercept!" A UDF trooper in specialized power armor vaulted forward. Activating his kinetic reinforcement field, he caught the creature's claw mid-strike, forcing it open. The metallic clang of armor against claw echoed as the trooper's kinetic gauntlet shattered the mount, sending the monstrous frame crashing into the ground. His bioscanner flashed, "Alert!" at every pulse of the dying creature's bio output. "Hold fast," Davis bellowed. Her team ducked behind an earthen berm as a volley of bioprojectiles spat red tracers. One embedded in the berm's edge, cracking concrete under the impact. Catching her breath, Davis ordered, "Close ranks, assault on my mark." UDF infantry and civilian volunteers surged forward in unison, wielding combat axes and stun batons to breach the enemy's rear guard, ripping apart its cohesion from within. The engagement raged for over an hour, the air thick with the odor of plasma scorch and burning organic matter. Yet with each fallen swarm warrior, the defenders pressed forward, inch by hard-won inch. Every cleared trench line drew cheers and words of encouragement over the comms. "Hold that wall! Outstanding fire discipline, Team Alpha." Those simple affirmations galvanized exhausted troops and civilians alike. As twilight descended, the last surviving swarm combatant crawled away into the wasteland. Davis raised her voice over the net. "Cease fire! They're withdrawing!" The battlefield fell eerily silent, save for the hiss of cooling metal and the distant crackle of dying comm channels. Around her lay a field of twisted bio-armor and scorched earth, droplets of crimson biofluid staining the ground. Lieutenant Davis exhaled deeply, wiping sweat and grime from her brow. "We held our fortress," she declared, and the defense lines erupted in unified cheers. By dusk, Captain Reed and Admiral Walker paced through the makeshift aid stations in the city's aftermath zone. They observed medics and volunteers alternating between tending wounded UDF troopers and comforting shaken civilians. Reed placed a firm hand on Davis's shoulder. "You and your team did the impossible. New Haven stands because of you." Davis met his gaze, eyes glistening yet resolute. "With Earth's support and everyone's courage, we refuse to give ground." The ground battle concluded with New Haven unbroken. Victory was not won by technology alone, but by the indomitable will of humanity's death worlders, individuals hardened by adversity, who rose, unflinching, to face death itself. Under a sky streaked with celebration and illuminated by the city's emergency beacons, horns of victory reverberated across the battered but unbowed colony, marking a triumph of spirit as much as steel. Post-battle reconstruction. Establishing a permanent base. On the first dawn after the battle, New Haven lay under a subdued sky tinged with hope. Smoke still curled from burned-out buildings and scorched forests, and bio-carapace remnants lay cold in the outer streets. Yet teams of Earth combat engineers and New Haven colonists moved forward in concert. They had come not only to defend, but to rebuild. As soon as the ceasefire was declared, Earth engineers and local volunteers set to clearing the debris. Heavy cranes lifted fractured hull segments and transported them to a disposal field near New Haven's moon. Excavators removed layers of contaminated soil, then reseeded the ground with native flora. Colonial sanitation crews installed UDF-provided biohazard treatment units to prevent residual swarm microbes from spreading. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Davis's field aid stations transformed into a provisional hospital. Earth and colonial doctors and nurses performed urgent surgeries on combat and civilian casualties. Automated blood infusion robots conserved medical personnel, while medical drones distributed supplies from the supply ships to each satellite clinic. Hundreds of critical operations were completed, and civilian fatalities remained minimal thanks to the swift evacuation and rapid medical response. The political scene was no less active. Colonial Governor Maria Price convened an emergency summit with Commander Reed and Alliance Ambassador Lee. She announced a new accord. Earth would establish a permanent defense base in New Haven orbit, comprising 1 strategic outpost and 2 radar battery stations. In exchange, the colony agreed to share scientific research data and provide personnel support to the UDF. Ambassador Lee faced a mix of reluctance and respect scribed the official minutes. The Alliance will contribute logistical support and participate in joint patrols, safeguarding the legal interests of both parties. Above, Earth vessels automatically assembled the radar emplacements arrays of superconducting antennas, sweeping constantly for anomalous signatures. Additional reconnaissance, satellites, and automated interceptor missiles were deployed to guard against future incursions. Colonial engineers were trained in operation and maintenance, ensuring the base's shield remained at peak readiness. On the ground, new housing sprang up amid the ruins. UDF hop-up container modules were snapped together into temporary residences capable of withstanding electromagnetic storms and pressure fluctuations in orbit. Colonists moved in alongside Earth engineers, sharing construction techniques for vibration-isolating barriers against biological tremors. Mobile technical seminars, held in transportable lecture halls, drew large audiences of colonists and UDF personnel eager to learn. Finally, a dedication ceremony marked the base's inauguration atop the orbital observation hill. Captain Reed, Lieutenant Davis, Admiral Walker, and Governor Price together cut the ribbon on the plaque reading UDF New Haven Defense Base. Below fluttered the flags of Earth, the Alliance, and New Haven. Small commemorative fireworks arced above the sky, their reflections dancing across the base's viewing portza, promised that New Haven would never stand alone again. From the Resolute's bridge, Reed exhaled in relief. The city was rising from the ashes, and the permanent defense installations were complete. Under the vigilant gaze of thousands of radar eyes, New Haven had become an impregnable fortress and emblem of the Deathworlder spirit's resilience and the power of interstellar unity. This reconstruction was not merely restoration, but the beginning of a new era, one in which life and faith would outshine the darkness of war. Epilogue. Political outcomes. New Haven's future. On the Friday evening following the battle, New Haven glowed beneath a crimson sunset, embodying a colony more resilient than ever. In the Administrative Center's conference hall, Captain Reed, Governor Maria Price, and Alliance Ambassador Lee sat before a sprawling star chart. The red markers denoting the swarm had receded, replaced by vibrant green lines representing the new UDF base and reconnaissance network. The air was taut with gravity and hope. The Galactic Alliance and Earth Defense Force had finally joined hands in a shared security pact, inaugurating a strategic partnership. Governor Price opened the session. New Haven pledges to contribute research capacity and medical support in exchange for security guarantees from Earth and the Alliance. She highlighted key metrics on the data panels. Hydroponic yields up 30%, the nuclear restructuring bioresearch facility now operational, and the colony's elite combat cadre doubled. No longer a forgotten outpost, New Haven's resources and manpower would become a critical node in the outer defense chain. After a measured pause, Ambassador Lee nodded. The Alliance Council will ratify the New Haven Protection Treaty, authorizing 2 additional patrol vessels and a dedicated space reconnaissance squadron. His tone balanced Alliance prestige with undeniable pragmatism. Earth's display of Deathworlder prowess had set a new precedent for off-sun security commitments. Later, Captain Reed convened a private briefing with Colonel Walker aboard the UDF Resolute. Reed stated plainly, "We are grateful for your sacrifice, but New Haven must evolve into a self-reliant ally, not a security dependent." Walker replied, "We will continue training and technology transfers, but the Deathworlder spirit must endure. You must always be ready to defend your way of life." They shook hands on mutual pledges to cultivate both a defense culture and a research culture within the colony. With orbital defenses and radar stations fully online, New Haven's sole trade lanes reopened. Passenger liners and cargo shuttles restored vital economic ties. Groundbreaking ceremonies marked the start of an engineering institute, a medical pharmaceutical center, and a high-containment bioshoes lab, transforming New Haven into a premier research hub in the Orion Arm. Peering down from orbit, Lieutenant Davis allowed herself a quiet smile. "We haven't merely survived, we've advanced." Beneath a tapestry of shimmering stars, New Havenance, a near-lost jewel, had been reborn as a fortress of innovation, defense, and hope for the galaxy. Though the swarm threat still lurked beyond the void, New Haven's unwavering Deathworlder resolve and the bonds forged with stellar allies would stand as living proof that unity and courage can overcome even the most formidable darkness.